Hopefully you can hear me a bit better today. Because the last stream I was super quiet. And everything else was super loud. Um, so today we're gonna be doing the Body Horror Iceberg. We're doing part 3. So I think we stopped at tier 6. And I have to go back and find it. But, we're going to be reacting to the rest of it. And I want to let y'all know the Discord is pretty much up. I will link it in the description of my stream. I have to go to Twitch and do that right quick. But, yeah, it's pretty much up. I just need to get a few bots on it, and we'll be able to take care of that. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can do this very quick. Alright. Let me get that Discord right quick. Alrighty. Once I get that taken care of, then we'll be all set to start. Do 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 do. Alrighty. Now you have my Discord built into my Twitch. There you go. Alright, let's jump up in it. It'll also be in the link of my YouTube description as well. If I can, say that correctly. Alright.
I gave my...
We're on tier 6. Alright. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
.115.avi. 115.avi is an extremely obscure and cryptic Russian YouTube video that features strange animation and jarring audio. Everything's in monochrome, and we see Russian text on the screen with random animated images flashing in and out, including a severed head and a finger. I was pretty curious what the text in the
Weird. Was this the one with the plague doctor?
Video meant, and since the video is rather obscure, I just manually input the text into Google Translate. First of all, the description of the video reads, fear, schizophrenia, why does everyone keep silent, only you? Psychedelic, everything will be fine.
Weird.
Well, I'm glad you say so. Anyway, the video starts with the text you just don't notice. Then after some quick animation flashes and some creepy sudden sounds, we get some more text simply stating fear is natural. There's a very quick flash that says SOS and then more text saying stranger in this room, and a very quick flash, and by quick I mean one single frame, that says human curiosity has no limits.
Yeah, this is not what I thought it was.
Then shown a man shifting around violently, and for a single frame, a phrase appears on his chest that reads, "The problem lies within the body." A key is shown opening a door where we see an ethereal white being that flashes at an intensity that could definitely...
Yeah, I didn't see it the first time. Seizure warning for those of you who are photosensitive.
cause seizures, and sporadic words pop up like "why" and
Yeah, seizure warning.
"are you" and "keep back." Then in a very fast flurry, we see 2012 problems, and "we want help." Finally, everything will be fine. It's an interesting video and feels like an analog horror only made 12 years ago. I have to say, we're on the bottom tier now, and I'm definitely feeling it when the first entry right out of the gate is a 12-year-old Russian video with only 9,000 views. 3D example of dog simply spinning around. So this is a 3D example of a dog simply spinning around. I mean, the title...
Except that the fucking, dog is really messed up.
Really does say it all. It also shows the dog as only muscle and then as only bone, but honestly, this one's just for the yucks. 62.104.155.4464.331
This is the longest fucking video name I have ever seen in my life.
459908986646464143. This is a very mysterious YouTube video that is honestly kind of hard to explain, but it shows a lot of strange imagery, most of which is taken from the stop-motion film The Adventures of Mark Twain. There's several audio clips.
It's still weird, like, who makes a fucking title like that?
That play throughout, including what sounds like a 911 phone call. There's also some stills of what looks like a forest trail. The video has no description, and the channel name is just another random series of numbers. My first thought was that the channel title was coordinates, so I entered the number...
Yeah, I can see where you would think that, and it does look like a latitude and longitude, coordinate.
Numbers as latitude and longitude on Google Earth, and it took me to a random patch of forest in the Netherlands. I can't tell if this is random or not, but either way I searched the area for anything mysterious. I was surprised to find that there was actually a road nearby that I could travel along using Street View. This area actually does look very similar to the stills of the forest trail in the video. So I painstakingly traveled along the road circling the forest. The closest spot where you can actually see the area where the coordinates are is across a lake, and I didn't really see anything. Honestly, the only strange thing I found was a trail leading into the forest that I couldn't access through Street View, but did get a glimpse of what looks like a creepy old abandoned shack inside. Anyway, the video's creepy, weird, and mysterious, and probably just randomly edited together to send dummies like me on wild goose chases. A lovely day to see Garfield.
A lovely day to see Garfield. Interesting.
This is actually considered lost media now, but was supposedly an MS Paint animation uploaded in 2012 by Spaz Kid that featured John murdering Garfield and maniacally laughing. Garfield's ghost then teleports John to a world where every character in the Garfield universe is having sex with each other. Terrified, John...
Hell no. 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 I'm kind of glad I
runs away, but is
am kind of glad that I don't have to see that.
Hit by a car while this time Garfield laughs. It sounds truly bizarre and was taken down from YouTube due to the nudity and gore. The creator, Spaz Kid, apparently re-uploaded the animation several times until eventually his account was banned, and with it every uploaded copy of the animation. Babies Making Babies. Babies Making Babies is a lost animation that was apparently a slideshow that showcased porn images with baby faces poorly edited onto them. That sounds
gross. That sounds gross.
It's partly body horror and mostly really freaking weird. Banjo Gyro. Okay, so Banjo Gyro is an animated short film, I guess you could call it that. It features Bill, Sammy, and Finger, three fast food workers who form a team.
This looks like the Jimmy Neutron one from earlier in this iceberg. The pizza has become aggressive.
In order to fight demons. By the way, doesn't Sammy look a lot like Zach Woods? Anyway, that's besides the point. It's an 11-minute video, and I won't go through it beat by beat, but it's really insane. It all starts when a particularly strange customer comes in, and Sammy thinks it's a demon. And from there, it really goes off the rails. What I like about this video is that it's in the same category of strange 3D animated YouTube, and kind of reminds me of Jimmy Neutron Happy Family Happy Hour.
Finally, somebody said it.
except it's almost in its own league for a couple of reasons. One being that the character models actually look pretty good. If someone told me they were from a cartoonish PS2 game, I'd believe them. And overall, the amount of effort put into something so stupid is really admirable. Like the fact that almost every piece of voiceover sounds off and out of place. Like every sentence is said in a way that sounds like someone cut it together from bits of other sentences. I actually can't find much about the creator, Grady Sane, other than a YouTube channel that I'm not even sure is actually his. But props for the creative and fucked up mind it takes to come up with
Yeah, you gotta be tripping to make something like this.
something like this. Cursed Things Remastered. This is actually a YouTube playlist, which is kind of a unique entry at this point, and I can't really dissect the whole thing because it's got over 1,600 videos on it, most of which are just memes or comedy videos, but there are some disturbing videos mixed in there. Demon Milk, or maybe Demon Milk. Demon Milk is just this strange picture of a 3D rendering of Toadstool, only
He drank the demon milk.
he's altered in kind of a dark and creepy way. It's hard to explain, but it's just an eerie picture. Dreams I Had. This is probably the most meta entry on the iceberg, as it's referring to dreams or nightmares just in general. It's basically just talking about dreams and their tendency to get very surreal or off-putting, especially in terms of body horror. Heroes Save the World. Heroes Save the World is
I've seen that logo before.
a web novel about 100 teenagers all around the world suddenly getting superpowers. One of the main characters, Simon Martin, is given the ability to see when people will die by touching them. The story practically begins with body horror. In chapter 1, Simon has a vision of a forest of bodies suspended, twisted, in grotesque, wiry shapes. Simon dubs them Geiger trees.
Geiger trees? Why?
The series deals with the fact that these teens are possibly more of a danger to the world than a help, and each chapter goes into the details of different teens, so it's worth a read. Kevin's Computer is a YouTube channel featuring animated videos that are usually comical and short in length, and feature outlandish characters,
This kind of looks like stop motion. It's pretty cool looking, actually. Kind of crisp.
including one video where a character eats a strange object that then transforms into a larger version of that object. But forget about the body horror here, forget about the iceberg, go freaking subscribe to this guy's channel. It's really a tragedy that he doesn't have more subs, because I think his animation style completely stands out and deserves a lot more attention. You can watch
I mean, it's really well done.
all the videos he has posted in like 5 minutes, so just go check it out if you're into unique animated content. Killer Pollo. Killer Pollo, or Killer Chicken, is a series of animated videos where the titular character, Killer Pollo, fights various enemies, often killing them in brutal ways. All these videos are over 10 years old, and the website doesn't work, but it's
It reminds me of Newgrounds. Is this on Newgrounds?
interesting to see the progression of the series as the animation gets slightly better with every video. Killing Pinky Starlight. Killing Pinky Starlight is an obscure, poorly made flip-a-clip animation where the titular Pinky Starlight, if I'm not wrong it's based on a cringe user, gets stabbed with a knife multiple times both in the boobs and vagina. It's really silly, and Dripcat even said he added it just for the lols.
Yeah, that would make sense.
La Muerte de Fernanfloo, Animación de Terror 3D. This is a 3D animated short based on the Salvadorian YouTuber Fernanfloo. I didn't really know about this guy, but he does a lot of gaming and reaction videos and always wears a Luigi hat. Anyway, in this video, he's strapped down as
Spanish Luigi Kid?
Jason Voorhees slowly approaches and beheads him. Shortly after this, a really creepy screamer image pops up on the screen. Laughs. Laughs is a 14-year-old YouTube video that shows what looks like some kind of fleshy organisms while intercutting a picture of a weird-looking man with a shrimp.
Y'all remember those YouTube videos where this guy was trying to make a homunculus? That's kind of what it looks like is going on here.
Strange smile. There are some kind of goofy edits and really loud audio scares as well. One thing I love about this tier in particular is just all the decade-old videos from the golden age of YouTube that I would have never heard of otherwise. Licky Licky. This is a weird fan art of Raichu whose tail has a mouth on the end of it and it's licking him. Huh, wonder what he does with that. Meet Bob. Meet Bob is a Russian animated web series featuring a character who dies in various ways.
This looks so similar to Justin Roiland's art style for Rick and Morty. Like, it's almost uncanny.
As a way of displaying the effects of some actions. As of right now, and probably forever considering the series is 5 years old, there are only 5 episodes. Bob jumps from 10,000 miles, Bob ate 10 kilograms of chocolate, Bob is burned alive, and Bob blew up 50 kilograms of fireworks, all displaying Bob's horrific demise. Motherfucker King ZJ. Well, this one was hard to find, but I eventually traced it back to a TikTok account that has some of the most wild animation videos on it. It's nothing really that disturbing, but it does feature a lot of strange imagery, and for whatever reason, a lot of it has to do with Mickey Mouse or Disney. Night Factor Films. Night Factor Films is a YouTube channel created by
Why do I feel like I've seen this before?
Marcus Infante that features a real mixed bag of content,
Oh my god, it's a fucking real life salad fingers.
including live action and animated videos. One video titled Clay Gore shows a clay humanoid brutally killing several other clay creatures, including ripping one's ribcage out of its chest. There's
Jesus, I have seen that one.
another animated
I have seen this one.
video that has a guy with a really creepily long neck that extends that kind of reminds me of that one yokai. The channel also has some homages to old horror movies and a video of Bigfoot fighting a bear.
What the fuck?
Wait, what? No, that's right. That is in fact Bigfoot fighting a bear. SpongeBob Gore. SpongeBob Gore is a subreddit dedicated to putting blood and gore into scenes from SpongeBob. This works really well since SpongeBob is already a pretty violent show, only in a very light and cartoonish
Damn.
way. So even just adding blood on top of some of these scenes looks really brutal. Regular Hell. Regular Hell is a comical edit of Regular Show where Rigby dies, then becomes a demon that starts killing off the other characters. It actually made me laugh because it's not that far from a real episode, and the character swearing along with the added gore is pretty great. Team
Yeah, I can see it.
Smithereen. Team Smithereen was a really strange series of shorts that aired on Disney XD and features a team of odd-looking creatures who end up suffering horrible stunts. Something about the elastic nature of the puppets makes this kind of creepy, and also, what the hell is that thing?
It's got Mr. Meaty levels of vibe. I don't know how I feel about it.
Asylum for Shut-ins Video Psychotherapy. So this is actually a website that's all based around the mysterious character known simply as the Doctor, who is a sadistic, power-mad ventriloquist dummy who administers doses of mind-bending video ultraviolence and savage social commentary. He delivers his demented therapy with machine gun-like collages of horror movie clips. Each video is centered around a different topic, like religion.
Is this what Slappy the Puppet did after he did Goosebumps? Is this his career now? Because that would make a lot of sense.
Torture, and nightmares, and features the Doctor going on a monologue while we see very fast-paced clips of violence, gore, and war footage. This one is pretty interesting and makes me wonder whether it was meant to be funny or actually a strange attempt at mind control. Either way, I find it really fascinating, and the videos are actually oddly addictive. I ended up watching every video on the site's main page without even realizing it. If you're sensitive
Jesus.
to flashing lights or quick-paced imagery, maybe skip this one out, but otherwise definitely check the website out. The Cartoon Man. The Cartoon Man is a horror villain originating from the Tragedy at Toontown creepypasta written by Freaky Attractions.
There's a creepypasta for fucking Toontown.
Narrated version of the creepypasta on Freaky Attractions' YouTube page that I would recommend listening to, but I'll try to sum it up quickly here. Basically, the story follows a man who's working at Disney World. One night after a long shift, he was passing through Toontown and believes he sees a figure with a bushy tail at night. The next day, the staff find a mutilated rat with its blood smeared across Minnie Mouse's
Jesus.
house. That night, while the man was finishing taking out the trash, he notices that Minnie's refrigerator door is open through the window. So he goes to shut the door and finds a dead human baby inside. He then sees a man-like thing
That's weird.
with a tail run past the window. After the police show up, he sees the figure in the distance, and it appears to be a man who has altered his face to resemble a cartoon character with a hideous protruding snout. In part 2 of the story, we get even more details and a close-up look at the Cartoon Man. After the man from the first story seeks him out and finds the Cartoon Man,
My question is, why would you go seek something like that out? I know it's a creepypasta and it's fictional, but why would you do that? Like, why? There's no point. Like, you're going to die.
man living in a shack in the forest behind the Magic Kingdom. In the shack, the cartoon man has a shrine made with hundreds of photos of children taking pictures with Goofy. We also get a better look at him and see that he has, in fact, surgically attached a snout to his face to look more like Goofy, and has also attached a tail to himself that's made up of several other small animal tails, as well as filing down his teeth to be sharper. So you kind of get the idea. There are 4 parts as of right now, and I'd recommend either watching the narrated videos or reading them on Reddit, especially since by part 4 there's some more transformation to the cartoon man where it starts getting to a supernatural level. The
Jesus.
Chicken Nugget Murder. The Chicken Nugget Murder was a joke web animation where Trollface killed the cast of Chicken Nugget. Just a refresher, Chicken Nugget is a web series of cute critters and comedy shorts. A lot of weird and disgusting stuff happens, including an image of a baby with Harlequin ichthyosis and...
For those who don't know, Harlequin ichthyosis is a birth defect where your skin glands don't produce any sort of sebum or oil. And so your skin begins to scale up, like it begins to crack and form these fishy-like scales. And it actually leads to deformation of the ears, eyes, and nose, too. There are people who have survived it, but it's very rare because, you know, the amount of bleeding that occurs, the amount of bacterial infections that could get through the broken skin, it's a lot.
And if you don't know what that is, don't Google it, unless you want to be really freaked out and really sad. The Chicken Nugget Murder has actually lost media now, so unfortunately I can't show it to you. The Green Elephant. So The Green Elephant is probably one of the most disturbing films on this iceberg. It's essentially about 2 Russian prisoners in a cell and follows them slowly going insane. Now, this doesn't sound so bad, and honestly the first half of the film isn't even really that graphic and pretty funny, but it all goes downhill after the midpoint of the film when one of the men gets naked and shits on the only plate the prisoners share for
Jesus! I'm so glad that's blurred. Oh my god.
food and begins rubbing it on his belly and eating it. This scene is way too detailed.
Nope. Nope. We're just gonna move along past that.
Never really seen an iceberg as an entry on another iceberg till now, but yeah, the Super Deep Anomalies and Mysteries iceberg is definitely worth checking out and has a lot of body horror in it. So yeah, it's kind of iceberg inception here, because if you
The iceberg within the iceberg.
put an iceberg into another iceberg and then you put the original iceberg into that iceberg, you'd then cause an iceberg paradox. And boy, I would hate for that to happen to anyone. Anyway, I wouldn't mind making an explanation for the Super Deep Anomalies iceberg video if anyone's interested. 3 songs that suddenly stop but never end. This is a video that is sort of posted as if it's a short film, although I actually think it's just an edit of several other videos combined. I'm not really sure about.
Why is he using a mango as chapstick? Why? Why?
That. It's very random and starts off with 2 people having sex. A lot of it is just close up.
Jesus, okay. No, I don't know why. No, I don't. Why would a motherfucker use mango as a chapstick? Huh? They peeled the mango like a fucking banana, rubbed it on their lips like a fucking chapstick. Stop it! My mic's on. I'm being goofy. Stop. Huh? No, please. No. No. I'm gonna get you. Yeah. Chat. My boyfriend's being weird. Just. That's the norm for him. My nose. No. I love you. Goober.
Oh yeah, this does sound really disturbing, and he actually links a download to the video in the post and a link to YouTube. Unfortunately, the YouTube video is taken down due to gore, and I'll be honest, I'm a little nervous downloading the video willy-nilly from an unsecure website, so if anyone wants to give it a try, you can download it, but seems a little dicey to me. Unhappy suicidal friends.
Is this supposed to be like a parody on Happy Tree Friends?
This is a really strange animation on YouTube that seems like a strange parody of Happy Tree Friends, and is just a video of a furry critter stabbing itself in the eye repeatedly. That's literally the whole video.
That's kinda sad.
WubsySuicide666.win. This is a lost episode creepypasta created by Devin Miller under his I'm So Sorry Please Forgive Me.mp4 alias in 2014. The story goes that he ordered a VHS tape of a lost episode of a children's animated series that aired on Nick Jr., known as Wow Wow Wubsy. Supposedly, the episode starts off with Ukrainian text and a bleeding mouth located at the bottom. Then it cuts to Wubsy playing with his kickball without any title screen or opening logos. This goes on until he suddenly starts crying with black eyes and proceeds to don a cloak over himself. Then out of nowhere, he starts to bang his head against a rock until his forehead starts bleeding. The viewer is then exposed to all of his friends running away so as to avoid getting hung by whatever mysterious force is hanging them in the first place. After the bloody event, Daisy goes on to kill everyone in the town of Weselberg, where the series is mostly set in, to which she jump scares the viewer at the same time.
It's cheaply written, but I mean, there is technically body horror in it, so I guess.
While massacring everyone. Of course, in typical creepypasta fashion, the murders are bloody, gory, and hyper-realistic. The rest of the episode shows real-life footage and some scary edits sprinkled in up until the ending, along with ending footage of a man killing himself in a hallway and then coming back to life and jump-scaring the viewer with Daisy
That's weird. Why? There's no need for that.
in the hallway to join the horror. The story then ends with the narrator explaining that they went to the doctor and that they were diagnosed with creepy wuzzle, a disease where the person has to be killed in order to get rid of it due to the severity. As they're awaiting their death, they learn that their entire family was killed by Daisy in the real world as well.
Okay, that's cringe.
The narrator then explains that they are writing this as they are dying and that there is no longer any more help for them, ending the story there. Sleva na pravo. Okay, well, let's end this iceberg in one of my favorite categories, really weird and Russian. Sleva na pravo is an animated short that translates to From Left to Right, and that's a great title for this video as the screen is constantly panning from left to right. The whole thing is really trippy. It starts with a dog howling and then running away. Next we see
Sausage.
a liquid substance push out of holes on the wall in the same fashion you might do with Play-Doh as a kid. The liquid begins taking the form of various creatures, sometimes resembling animals and sometimes resembling weird-looking people. But
What the fuck?
one of the things they all seem to do is eat things and then shit them out. No, seriously, most of the video is them doing exactly that. Some of the shapes and body transformations that the creatures take is really strange looking and a little creepy, but
How do you move like that?
overall, this is just a great bit of entertainment and a cool showcase of classic animation. Apparently, it was released in '89, and not only was the creator likely inspired by psychedelics, but it's also kind of a commentary on the Soviet Union. But I'm way out of my wheelhouse trying to figure out how. Contra. Contra is the
Ooh, I love Contra.
beloved Konami side-scrolling shooter, and the series has its fair share of monstrous enemies, particularly in Neo Contra, which is really chock full of hideous
Yo.
bosses, including Gigabon, the giant mutated tentacle baby head. Man, that thing's gnarly. Metal Slug.
If you like Metal Slug, you'll probably like Expendabros and stuff like that. Metal Slug is goated. I just can't believe they're still making Metal Slug games.
Metal Slug was always my favorite arcade shooter as a kid. It seemed more rare than a lot of the other games, and the animation and art style always stood out to me. But enough waxing nostalgic. The series mostly focuses on military tech, especially for the bosses, but it does dip into supernatural territory with clone incubators, mummies, creepy aliens like the Root Mars who have their brains exposed, and even demons. What a fun series. Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat is probably
I mean, Mortal Kombat is easily should have been on the top tier.
Probably the most obvious one here, and I can't believe it wasn't on the original Iceberg. The amount of brutal bodily injuries and horrific kills in this series could be an iceberg all on its own. Star Wars Saga. There's a lot that could be categorized as body horror in the Star Wars saga. Even if you don't count the aliens themselves, you still have people getting their limbs chopped off with lightsabers, Luke being shoved into a butchered tauntaun, and
Yeah.
and being almost burned alive with most of his appendages missing, and there's many more examples past that. Surrealism.
Yes! Beksinski is on the iceberg.
I believe this is referring to the genre of art itself, which makes sense considering some of the disturbing artwork coming from surrealism. Some examples are actually found elsewhere on the iceberg, like The Premonition of War, but there is an endless list of off-putting body imagery in this category. Salvador Dali's The Great Masturbator, for instance. I love the title, by the way. Terminator. The false flesh ripping away to reveal the robot.
The eyeball. Not the eyeball. We don't like the eyeball.
Robotic T-800 underneath is body horror enough, and this is made more disturbing in Terminator Salvation when a character doesn't even realize they're a Terminator until
Yeah, because he was a prototype. He screamed when he saw his torso.
they see the metal under their torn flesh. Imagine that revelation. The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. This is
I see what you did there, Grief. I see what you did there. It's Terminator Salvation, but it could also be called Terminator Revelation. I see what you did there.
The series is full of dark horror tropes, and body horror is definitely one of them. Even the intro has Billy and Mandy being brought from skeleton to muscle to skin. If you really want to go deep, though, the original short that Billy and Mandy is based off of, called Billy and Mandy and Trepidation of the Skull and You, is really disturbing. The black and white simple animation
Yeah, the pilot is weird.
seems like something out of a Lost Media creepypasta, and the whole premise is that Mandy has drilled a hole in her head to relieve pressure supposedly brought on by an evolutionary defect, causing the brain to be too big for the skull. Mandy then convinces Billy to do the same, and after drilling the hole into his head, it spurts blood. A lot of blood. This short is awesome. It's one of the times
Jesus.
I'm really thankful for this iceberg, or I may never have found it. The King of Fighters. The character's Lori.
King of Fighters is so fucking good. Y'all should play it. Like, King of Fighters is... If you like Street Fighter, like classic Street Fighter, you will love this game.
And Leona both have Orochi transformations, which turn them more vicious and beast-like. The Passion of the Christ. Oof, didn't know.
Yeah, no, my grandparents suggested I watch this movie, and I was sobbing. It was so bad. Like, not in, like, it was a good movie for what it was, but as far as, like, how gruesome it was pretty fucked up.
We get into this territory. Well, in Mel Gibson's film The Passion of the Christ, Jesus is brutally beaten and tortured throughout. Probably the most jarring scene being when he is whipped with a specific kind of whip that has glass shards in the end of it. It's a pretty brutal movie, and some people even consider it a torture film, which by definition it kind of is. One thing I don't hear people mention very often about this movie is that there's a really bizarre scene where what is supposedly Satan taunts Jesus, and he looks like this weird small baby with a creepy ass smile. No disrespect to the actor, but that is fucking terrifying.
He looks like Gollum.
Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul is an anime set in an alternate reality where creatures called ghouls exist. These creatures look like normal people but can only survive by eating human flesh. The series is full of blood and gore, and the ghoul transformations can be pretty wild. Also,
There are so many weird injuries in this fucking show.
half ghouls, which can either be born naturally as a ghoul and human's offspring, or, and here's some more body horror, artificially created by transplanting some ghoul organs into a human. Aberrat. Aberrat is a series of books by Clive Barker, who you might recognize as the writer-director of Hellraiser and the author of The Hellbound Heart, the novella the film was based on.
Huh. I haven't... I'm just starting to get into Clive Barker's books, so I didn't even know that this existed.
Aberrat follows a girl named Candy who travels into a parallel world through a lighthouse, meeting strange humanoid friends and foes. It's chock full of creepy stuff, including a character named John Mischief who has large antlers on his head. These antlers have 7 heads protruding from them, which are John's brothers. Also, there's characters known as Stitchlings, zombie-like...
Bro. It looks like it's made of fucking bandages.
Minions filled with mud, and occasionally random internal organs stitched together from random bits of old rotting flesh. And of course the antagonist, whose face is surrounded by a vat of liquid in which electrical pulsing nightmares swim that come from tubes embedded in his skull. That's not even
God damn.
half of it. This book is crazy, dude. Back for Blood. Back for Blood is
Finally, somebody mentioned Back for Blood. I talked about this in part 1 of the Iceberg.
a cooperative zombie shooter game and spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. Like Left 4 Dead, the game features mutated zombies on top of the typical hordes. Each of these special type zombies are examples of body horror with heavily distorted bodies. BoJack Horseman. BoJack is an adult animated
Jesus, I forgot about that fucking... I forgot about that scene in BoJack. God damn.
series, and although it doesn't usually have a lot of scares, there are some horror moments sprinkled in. Most notably a scene where BoJack has a drug trip where he witnesses Diane transform into a nightmare abomination. The animation is great here, and she really looks grotesque. Bruce Almighty, How Many Fingers? This is in direct reference to the scene in Bruce Almighty where Bruce is having God guess how many fingers he's holding up. Eventually he's about to hold up 7, 5 on one hand and 2 on the other, but quickly changes it to 5, only holding up the one hand, but when he puts his hand up, he all of a sudden has 7 fingers on it. It's mostly a goof, but still a little freaky. Chainsaw Man. Man, I feel like
That's fucking insane. Yes, Chainsaw Man definitely needs to be on this iceberg.
can't stop hearing about this damn show. Chainsaw Man just suddenly infested the internet the last couple of months for some reason. Anyway, it's pretty self-explanatory. A human merges with a devil, giving him chainsaw powers. Okay, that actually sounds pretty cool. Syriac. Syriac is a YouTube animator that primarily manipulates images of people.
I love Syriac. He did the cows on cows on cows.
And animals into horror-like abominations. You've probably seen one of his videos floating around on YouTube, even if you didn't realize it. Kent J. Starrett. Kent J. Starrett is an illustrator and author whose work features a lot of horror elements, including Human Resources, his anthology book, where almost every short story is full of body horror. In Immunity, a man cultivates open wounds, grotesque hygiene, and repulsive eating habits to build up an immunity to death itself, becoming part of an inhuman conclave of like-minded abominations in the process. And in Children of Light and Darkness, there's a cellar full of human children who have been lobotomized, given...
This guy's got some fucking twisted fucking ideas for a horror book, but I don't think it's bad. I think that's pretty good. I just got
limb extensions and reductions, subjected to endless skin grafts, and otherwise surgically modified by a seemingly loving foster couple. Max Goof's Nightmare. In Goofy Movie, one of the best and underrated Disney films, Max has a dream about the girl he has a crush on that quickly turns into a nightmare when he begins transforming to look like an exaggerated version of his father, Goofy. It's a great scene.
It really is.
Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
'Tis but a flesh wound.
I think this is on the list, if anything, for the Black Knight scene, one of the most iconic and hilarious scenes from any of the Monty Python films, where a Black Knight blocks Sir Arthur's path, refusing to yield defeat even when all of his limbs are chopped off. Pink Floyd's The Wall. You might be...
Yeah, this one makes sense here. I think Korn's version is... Did Korn make a music video for it, or did... I be forgetting stuff.
Familiar with this song, but you might have missed the music video, in which a teacher is represented as a caricature, both with a live-action puppet and an animation. His strange appearance might be enough, but there's also a point in the video where he mashes kids into a meat grinder.
God damn.
Actually a really cool video. Rourke's Death, Atlantis the Lost Empire. In Atlantis, the
Yeah.
rated animated film, the main antagonist, Commander Rourke, is cut with a shard of the mythical crystal known as the Heart of Atlantis. This changes Rourke's skin so that he becomes a crystal abomination right before he explodes by being hit with a propeller. Sherry S. Tepper. Sherry S. Tepper is a sci-fi and horror author whose work is just chock full of body horror. In one novel, Shadow's End, in exchange for human...
Oh, I love Shadow's End.
Being permitted to live on the planet Denad. When a woman experiences her first pregnancy, she is then gang raped by a native race called the Kachis. Several Kachis grow in her womb, eating the human fetus for sustenance. In another novel, Gibbon's Decline and Fall, the main villain envisions a world where women exist in mindless, suspended animation. The only part of their body utilized is the womb, used only to produce offspring. Terraria. Terraria is full of disturbing enemies, including the face...
Yeah, let me talk about Terraria. I've played it since its inception, and holy shit. You got fucking Skeletron, you got the Eye of Cthulhu, the twins, Cthulhu himself, the Wall of fucking Flesh.
Monster, Floaty Gross, and the Wall of Flesh. The Binding of Isaac. The Binding of Isaac follows.
The Binding of Isaac is still so popular, and it's got so many mods now. It's just absolutely insane what a community can do.
Young boy whose fanatical Christian mother begins hearing the voice of God. She then strips him naked, confines him to his bedroom, and accepts a commission to kill him and sacrifice to prove her devotion. Isaac discovers her intentions and manages to escape into the basement, where, still naked, he goes on the run as he fights off nightmares, both physical and mental. The game is a real nightmare show and full of body horror because most power-ups do horrible things to you in exchange for their effects. In no particular order, you may grow tumors, become a living insect hive, acquire tons of diseases, cry blood, prop your eyes open with toothpicks, jam implants into your eyes, and so many more. The Suffering. This is one of those games I've always heard about but never played.
The Suffering is absolutely insane, and if I remember correctly, it kind of reminds me of Postal because you don't have to be a heinous criminal, but um it's better. Apparently, the game rewards you for it, but you still get a good ending? Question mark. If you don't raise hell on everybody.
The thing that always stood out to me was the fact that blood slowly covers the character as you play, which was really a cool concept at the time. But as far as the body horror goes, this is up there with Resident Evil and Silent Hill. The enemies are all grotesque monstrosities called malefactors, which are a collection of monsters, demons, and or human souls that embody the different types of killing that people have inflicted on one another throughout history. Damn, that's some metal shit, man. I gotta play this game. High on Life. High on Life is the recent
Yeah, High on Life deserves to be here.
released comedy shooter developed by Squanch Games in which the protagonist, a bounty hunter, uses talking guns as weapons. One character slash gun, Creature, is the end result of amoral experimentation. He has several parts that appear to be mostly exposed nerves, especially his open air womb slash magazine bit, and the bounty hunter has to insert their hand into him via a sphincter. He also produces offspring as ammunition. Fucking weird, dude. Bet you didn't know I was 5% salamander. This is actually in reference to a scene in the Animaniacs reboot where Wacko Warner's tail is ripped off. He then exclaims, "Bet you didn't know I was 5% salamander," and his tail regrows in a particularly disgusting fashion.
Jesus.
It really comes out of nowhere. Watermelon, A Cautionary Tale. This is a cute and strange animated.
I've never seen this, but I can already tell what it's based off of. Y'all remember the fucking myth that our parents told us that if we eat a watermelon seed, it'll grow inside us?
Short film based on the old wives' tale that if you swallow a watermelon seed, a watermelon will grow in your stomach. We watch as a boy deals with this exact problem, and it's more comical than horrifying. American McGee's Alice. American McGee's Alice
We love American McGee's Alice here.
is essentially a really dark and disturbing version of Alice in Wonderland. In this tale, Alice's family has died in a fire of which she's the only survivor. The trauma leaves her mostly catatonic and suicidal, and she's institutionalized in an asylum. Years later, her White Rabbit plush toy apparently comes to life and summons Alice to aid a radically altered Wonderland. It's a very cool premise, and I just always love it when people have dark takes on stuff like this. It's full of over-the-top blood and gore with
I also love the Flash games, Alice is Dead. Because it does a similar thing, but in a point and click game.
tons of body horror as well, as Alice is profoundly disturbed, and this reflects in Wonderland's people. Like various deformed children running around in the school and Hatter's asylum, some of whom have the tops of their skulls sawed off. Then there's the March Hare and the Dormouse. The March Hare is missing all of his limbs, and 3 have been replaced with crude prosthetics. His eyes are held open by staples, and his lower lip is pulled far down his face. Dormouse has his legs removed, his brain exposed, and most of his tail has been replaced by metal links. Just another game I gotta sit down and play sometime. Black Swan. So before researching this, I didn't know much about Black Swan.
I've seen Black Swan, but it's been a minute since I remember the plot. I know it's like ballet related.
Just knew it was some artsy film that won an Oscar a while back, but I never would have guessed that it's full of psychological terror and body horror. So slight spoilers here, but the main character, a ballerina, begins suffering hallucinations as she prepares for a performance that is breaking her psychologically. Besides some more mild but still cringy stuff like how fucked up ballerina's feet get from dancing, the main reason this is on the list is because she starts having hallucinations that she is literally becoming a swan, and this manifests by way of her neck elongating, her eyes going completely red, the goosebumps on her arms erupt into actual feathers, she starts pulling bloody black feathers from her back, and the skin on her toes fuse together, becoming webbed. Blasphemous.
Jesus. Okay, yeah, I remember. Oh, if you like Castlevania, Dead Cells, Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, and Dark Souls, you will like Blasphemous.
Blasphemous is a hack and slash Metroidvania game that takes place in a dark and unforgiving world where people's sins have physically manifested due to something called the Grievous Miracle, which has twisted humans into painful monstrosities. There are a lot of enemies and non-enemies that fit the bill here, including a lot of the bosses. Cube Zero. Cube Zero is the third film in the Cube franchise and is easily the most gory, with standout scenes like a man drinking what he thinks is flavored water, only to realize it's some kind of acid. It causes
Jesus.
the skin on his arms and then that of his face to fall off, revealing the bloody tissue beneath, and then he melts into a pile of gory skin and flesh. Also, several razor
Goopy.
wires shoot across a room, wrapping themselves around a man's limbs, which then slowly tighten until the man's head, arms, legs, and waist are sliced into large bloody chunks. Hungry Lamu. This is a weird one. Hungry Lamu is a free-to-play horror indie game. The game starts as a simple
What the fuck?
2D collection game where you play as Lamu, who's hungry and searching for food. It starts off innocently enough as you eat some cherries. Eventually this leads to him eating a banana dog and 3 fruit people. After this, the game takes a dark turn. You're now playing a first-person horror game where you're on the same campgrounds Lamu just was. Only these aren't fruit people, they're actually your friends that Lamu has mutilated and eaten, including your dog, who was no banana. It's kind of a cool setup, and there are multiple endings where you can try and uncover the truth behind Lamu's unstoppable hunger.
That was a twist I did not expect.
Phantasm. Phantasm is a cult classic horror movie and franchise that follows the Tall Man, the antagonist and sinister supernatural Undertaker. The films are full of gory deaths, but the true horror comes into what happens to the dead. The Tall Man reanimates them, crushing their bodies down to dwarf size and enslaving them to be zombie dwarf slaves. Damn.
Jesus. Oh shit, I've seen this animation. Ralph is an experiment bunny. This is like an anti-animal cruelty commercial.
Save Ralph. Save Ralph is a short film made by the Humane Society of America. It feels fairly upbeat at first, although Ralph's right eye is clearly dead and he can't hear out of his right ear. He then mentions the fact that he has chemical burns up and down his back. Eventually, Ralph is taken into a lab where a chemical is poured onto his eye, and I have to say, despite the slightly cartoonish look overall, the stop-motion animation is top-notch.
And what made it worse is that the assistant was telling him it was too much.
And this scene is very hard to watch. Afterwards, Ralph is shown with gnarly burns on his back and now both his eyes completely messed up. It's a very sad short, and it's pretty effective in making you feel uncomfortable. Skin Tom. Skin Tom is an old urban legend about a man who takes a woman out to Lover's Lane, not realizing she was married. The woman's husband follows her only to find
Ooh, that sounds like an interesting plot.
the two having sex in his car. The angry husband stabs his wife in the stomach and throws her aside, then proceeds to skin Tom alive. The police arrest
Jesus!
the husband, but never actually find Tom, only his filleted skin. The legend says he's still out there haunting Lover's Lane as a skinless monster with a knife. Okay, that's just fun. I don't think we've really done a lot of schoolyard urban legends like that, so it's kind of cool to see it on the list. Suspiria. Suspiria is an Italian horror film from 1977 about a ballet student who goes to a dance academy in Germany. However, several bizarre deaths surrounding the school turn her study abroad into a nightmare.
Okay, come on. Come on. No, that is... Please tell me that's lipstick, because otherwise that just looks terrible.
So, some spoilers here. It turns out that the headmistress of the school is a
Okay, from that angle it doesn't look as bad.
Actually an undead witch, which is where the body horror comes into play. It's also worth noting that there was a 2018 remake of this film where the head mistress, Helena Marcos, looks even more terrifying, being
Jesus.
a hideous mess. There's also a scene where a woman transforms and has a massive gaping bloody vagina form on her chest. Plus, there's a great scene of a woman's body being violently twisted and broken in a horrible way by magic. Both movies seem highly disturbing. Sweet Home. In a previous Iceberg video, I covered Sweet Home, the Japanese horror film and video game adaptation, but I noticed while doing the research that there's actually a Korean horror comic and TV show of the same name that has plenty of body horror itself. It's about a
Holy shit.
post-apocalyptic event that turns people into monsters, and a group of people attempt
I've seen the big dude before.
to survive this in an apartment building. The monsters in the show look pretty cool and freaky, and I just thought it was worth a mention. The Book of Lost Things. The Book of Lost Things is a novel about a boy who loses his mother to a terminal illness. After this, he enters a fantasy world full of
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to cut it short, and leave it here, but what I'm gonna do is tomorrow I'm gonna stream the second portion of this and record it so that we can do the final part in one YouTube video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace. I wanted to make sure we had some crazy shit going on. Grief, Body Horror Iceberg. Alright, Mike is going off.
full of strange creatures and mythical people. One of these is known as the Huntress, who, in an attempt to create a more entertaining breed of prey, has resorted to decapitating children and attaching their heads to animals.
Whoa, that's a start. That is a start. Okay. Oh, I want to play the Callisto Protocol. A lot of people said it wasn't as good as they made it out to be. But I mean, come on now. They're not trying to make a new Dead Space.
Callisto Protocol. The Callisto Protocol is a sci-fi horror action game that features body horror galore in the form of the biophage pathogen, which turns humans into grotesque undead-like creatures. ThisPersonDoesn'tExist.com. This is a very strange one, and
Oh yeah, weren't these all like AI and shit?
maybe a stretch in terms of body horror, but I'll let you be the judge of that. ThisPersonDoesn'tExist.com is a website that, when entered, will simply show you the portrait of a person. The thing is, the person is completely AI generated. These are not real people at all. You can refresh over and over, just getting constant portraits of people that look like any other human. It's kind of insane and a little eerie. American Psycho. American Psycho is a fairly disturbing film, but not at all by comparison to the book, which takes the torture to a much more depraved level.
American Psycho, the book, is a lot better. I'll take, but the movie was good. Excuse me, I have an allergy fit going on. The movie was good, but the book just takes the cake.
In case you don't know anything about American Psycho, it's about a wealthy businessman in New York who's secretly a serial killer. There's some very brutal acts in this book, and just a fair warning, these are very graphic, but they involve burning a woman's eyeball with a lighter till it explodes, using a chainsaw to cut a girl in half, then pulling her legs away while she's still conscious, grinding up a girl into hamburger meat and eating it, and probably the most disturbing, using acid to widen the opening of a girl's vagina, then forcing a starved rat inside to eat through her womb and stomach. Damn, that's one of the most brutal things I've heard on this iceberg in a while. Dogscape. Dogscape is a very surreal creepypasta. It's based on the concept that the world suddenly becomes completely engulfed in dog flesh. Essentially everything...
That's fucking weird. Why'd you make a creepypasta about it? Why couldn't you just, write a book?
Natural in the world is made up of living dog parts. The story is told in a series of logs written by a man named Doc. I'll read an excerpt from log 4. The Dogscape, that's what we call it. Us humans that banded together, I mean. We sit around campfires and cook the whelps we collect from the dog trees. The only flammable material we have is the acrid fur that grows everywhere. It offends all senses, but soon the meal is prepared. The only food sources are the dog trees and the mother mounds. Some, foolish enough, dig for meat. Though the reward is great, many don't come back, for the dog
God damn.
flesh regrows above them, trapping them inside the moist ground. So you get the idea. It's great because the concept is really ridiculous and should be silly, but it just actually plays out so unnerving at the same time. Het. This is in reference to a very specific game over screen on a bootleg Mario Brothers ripoff. The game over screen has a
Felix the cat.
mysterious option simply called Het. When clicked on, Felix the cat rips his flesh off. Yikes. Brain Damage. This is one of the wackiest films on the list. Brain Damage is from the
What the fuck? He just decided, like, for the one split second the train goes dark, compared to all the other times the train goes dark, to go blah, 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 blah. Like, wait, okay.
the same director who brought us Basket Case. You know, the one where the guy keeps his deformed twin brother in a basket. So, you know this is going to be insane.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie. That looks like a schmeenus.
Brain Damage is about Brian, the poor guy who contracts a parasite. The parasite speaks perfect English and has the calmest tone and demeanor. It's hilarious. Plus, his little eyes crack me up. Well, anyway, the little guy gives Brian a steady supply of mind-altering drugs in exchange for human brains to feast on. The movie is batshit crazy and has all kinds of memorable scenes, like Brian having a hallucination that blood is pouring out of his head, Brian hallucinating that the meatballs in his spaghetti are little brains, and pretty much any time the parasite kills anyone. Death Becomes Her. Death Becomes Her is one of those films that I'm just shocked I've never heard of. It stars Goldie Hawn, Meryl Streep, and Bruce Willis. Plus, it was directed by Robert Zemeckis, one of my favorite directors. I guess this one just kind of slipped through my fingers, but it's a very weird movie full of bizarre effects, mostly concerning the body. The basic idea is that two frenemies and rivals are competing for the love of the same man. They both at different points consume a magical potion that supposedly gives them eternal youth.
Yo! Bro, she became a fire hydrant.
While this is true, the potion also grants immortality. At a certain point, one of the women breaks their neck and is pronounced technically dead without a pulse, but somehow still living. From there, the women's bodies continue being messed up in different ways without them dying. It's a really bizarre film, and it doesn't really play like a horror as much as it does a dramedy. The various injuries look awesome though, and the film actually won an Oscar for the effects, which makes sense because they look great for the time. Fall Guy Anatomy. This is a meme in the same vein as the
Dude. That doesn't even look like an eye stalk. That looks like a monocle. The fuck?
Hamburger Helper Anatomy, where someone asked the question, what's going on under the skin of a fall guy? This of course led to digital artists all giving their renditions of what this disturbing anatomy might look like. Fantastic Planet. This is a really trippy animated French film from the 70s where...
Okay. Hear me out. I don't know if any of y'all listen to Tool, but The Pot has a very similar art style, and I don't know if they pulled it from this movie or if the artist for this movie made their own animation for The Pot. But I promise you, if the art style looks like this, you gonna get your brain melted a little bit.
Where in the future, giant blue humanoids have a technologically advanced society where they treat humans like pets, controlling their population and even torturing them. It's very bizarre and also very fascinating to watch, a lot of that having to do with the stellar visuals and art style, including many strange alien beasts that look like body horror abominations.
Bro, imagine that thing just walking above you and then you get dragged by its whatever its abdomen is. Dog, I would not want to live.
Definitely check this one out if you're into 70s sci-fi. Just don't fall asleep watching it like I did or you'll have some freaky ass dreams. Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game is a film based on the...
Gerald's Game is... I don't think people understand how terrifying Gerald's Game is. Like, your partner dies. Like, while y'all are being, freaky ass motherfuckers, and you are chained to a bed alone.
Stephen King novel. The premise is that a couple rents an isolated lake house to try and rekindle their love life. They try and kink it up by handcuffing the woman to the bed, but her husband suffers a heart attack and dies, leaving the woman trapped. It then follows her descent into insanity, hallucinating her dead husband talking to her as she becomes fatigued and dehydrated. So there's some spoilers here, but the body horror unfortunately reveals a little, like the woman cutting and peeling the skin from her arm back in order to slip out of the handcuffs. And the real horror comes in at one point when she wakes up in the middle of the night to see a deformed man standing in the corner of the room. This scene is actually really freaky because there's no horror music or jump scares. It's just really capitalizing on that fear of waking up to a figure in your room. So here's where the major spoiler comes in. It turns out that the deformed man is not a hallucination, but a serial killer who has sex with male corpses and then eats their faces. I know.
That is fucking insane.
What the fuck, right? So yeah, that's Gerald's game. Green Inferno. Green Inferno is a
If Eli Roth made Cannibal Holocaust, that's all you need to know. But it is so good. Like, I have a weird take that I think Cannibal Holocaust is a great movie. Green Inferno is really good too. I really like Green Inferno.
brutal torture film by Eli Roth. I mean, that's all you need to know right there. It feels like a sort of homage to Cannibal Holocaust, in which some students travel to the Amazon only to be abducted, tortured, and eaten by cannibals. You can imagine the type of horrific shit that goes down, but here are some highlights from the IMDb Parents Guide.
Hello, deformed man, that's offensive. I just walked in. Hey, what's up? What is good? Man, I haven't seen you in a couple days. Hopefully you're doing well. We're finishing the last part of the Body Horror Iceberg. We just reacted to T-Pain's Twitch intro to get some hype in chat. And the Discord is finally up. I just need to get some bots on it eventually. So it is in my profile now, so hopefully you get the chance to join.
Guide. A man has his eyes taken out, his tongue cut out, his arms and legs cut off, and decapitated while he's still alive. The headless, armless, and legless corpse of a male victim has portions of flesh slowly cut off with a sharp instrument and then chewed upon by the cannibal tribespeople, stemming from children to women.
I do want to know what these guys did to piss the cannibals off. Because in Cannibal Holocaust, the reason that they went apeshit at the end was because the fucking film crew was fucking with their people. So somebody had to have done something. What's good? Just got one more shift before a month off. Hey, there we go. That's what's up. I'm proud of you, man. Existing is enough reason. Yeah, but the whole concept of Cannibal Holocaust was that when we call these tribes savages, but the way we treat them is what makes us just as savage as we claim them to be. So that's why I ask for Green Inferno, how pissed off is the tribe? What did these people do? Because that's normally what happens. Even in like investigative journalism for tribal people in real life, a lot of journalists will go with respect, but at the same time, there are some that try to build bias because they do shit off camera. Yeah, you're right. Food is food.
Man is stabbed in the side of the neck with a tranquilizer dart by another captive whilst trying to escape. Several others lean down as he falls to the ground, biting into his arms and chest. His intestines are pulled out from his chest and hoisted up bloodily. A villager child then runs from the devouring crowd, hoisting an amputated, bloody leg. I know that the scene is horrific, but the idea of a kid being super hyped on getting a leg to himself is hilarious. Anyway, that's not even half of the gore in this movie. It's full of just crazy, brutal mutilation. Help, I'm a fish. What, you haven't heard of I'm a Fish, the Danish-German-Irish film about a kid accidentally being turned into a fish? Well, besides the basic body horror of being turned into a fish, I'm sure this is referring to the specific scene where the antagonist starts turning back into a human, and, well, it's particularly disturbing.
That looks like fucking the same art style as Anastasia. The zombie style, for real.
Empire. Inland Empire is a very surreal David Lynch movie. Some say it's confusing and hard to follow, and others say it perfectly captures the feeling of a dream or nightmare. Either way, it's on the list because of some strange horror, like these bunny people, for instance. But the film's known for having one of the most horrifying jump scares of all time when a woman slowly runs up to the camera. I think a lot is lost here without the context of the rest of the film, but I do see if you're in the right.
I'll tell him. He's currently at his homie's house. Um, I normally go with him, but I was so tired. Like, I came home at 6 a.m., immediately started on classwork, and I didn't go to bed till like 10 a.m. So I have been groggy most of the day, so I'm not with him right now. But when he gets home, if I'm still streaming, I will definitely tell him chat says hello.
Mind how the imagery could get you. There's another scene from this movie that also has a well-known jump scare, and everyone says that in the context of the film it's truly horrifying, and I get that, but without the context of the entire film, it's, well, you be the judge. For anyone just listening to audio, basically the woman's face is just poorly photoshopped onto a man's face.
All right, man. Enjoy your shower. If you do come back and I'm still alive, you're welcome back. But yeah, just wanted to let you know. Also, the Discord is up. I probably already said that twice.
And some jarring music plays. It's weird. Kingdom Death Monster. Well, this is an interesting one. I think it might be our first board game to hit the iceberg. Kingdom Death is a cooperative board game where you form a settlement. The game begins after the group has defeated a monster. They celebrate their victory with a yearly lantern festival followed by a ceremonial hunt against another monster.
Okay, if Kingdom Death Monster is gonna be on here, Warhammer 40k also needs to be on here. I'm sorry, but the Chaos God Nurgle, need I say more?
The game is a story-driven campaign that takes place over approximately 30 of these lantern years, and apparently it can take over 60 hours to complete a full playthrough. That's actually really cool. Anyway, the body horror comes into play here with the monsters themselves, which are all nightmarish creatures. Props to the art on these things, they look horrifying. Lasagna Cat. Well, I actually...
Okay, so I'm gonna react to this video later on. Not Lasagna Cat, but what the internet did to Garfield. Because Garfield, we've talked about in like earlier tier reactions, but Lasagna Cat was such an it was such a wild fucking journey, and it did help influence where r/I'm sorry John is now.
Actually just covered Lasagna Cat in my YouTube Horror Iceberg video. I'd feel weird repeating all the same stuff here, so just go check out that video. But in brief, Lasagna Cat is a really strange Garfield parody YouTube channel that's been around on YouTube for like 15 years. The videos got more and more bizarre, eventually leading to the final video on the channel, which turns into a strange nightmare art film with a high school girl giving birth to a baby in a bathroom stall. Yeah, like I said, go check out the YouTube horror video. Let It Die.
He didn't even talk about the main body horror part, was the half man, half cat tribesman. The Garfield tribesman. That transforms into like a pile of organs.
Let It Die is a hack and slash game where you transcend a post-apocalyptic tower, killing enemies along the way. These enemies are typically grotesque creatures. Now, what can we do with this fella? Is a comedic horror cartoon that shows a relatively normal man whose body is completely mutilated and reshaped by the artist. Rejected. Rejected is a short film by Don Hertzfeldt that's really a blast to the past for me because I remember this being iconic as far as animation on YouTube back in the day and completely forgot about it until now.
Why did he spawn fucking bees from his nipples?
Series of short animations that were supposedly made for the Family Learning Channel and understandably rejected. It's purely comedy, but it's on the list because some of the segments have random acts of violence, like one where a man rips another man's midsection out and then wears it like a hat for no.
Do y'all remember ASDF? Like the first few episodes? I feel like it was partially inspired by this. Like the "you stole my lungs," the, ripping a piece out, "you want a piece of me?" The fucking rainbows.
No apparent reason, and probably the most memorable is this puffy creature whose anus starts bleeding profusely. Shivers. Shivers is a Cronenberg film, and obviously I'm a fan of David Cronenberg, as any body horror fan should be, but I actually haven't seen this film. It's about a community in a high-rise apartment who contract parasites that turn them into sex-crazed lunatics. The whole premise being that these parasites were made by a madman who wants the world to return to its primitive urges and become a massive orgy. Well, that explains the working title of the movie, which was Orgy of the Blood Parasites. The parasites are gnarly, they're pretty big and look like little alien dicks, and you could imagine
Yeah.
the type of gross out body horror scenes we get with this. Sludge Life. Sludge Life is a strange first person open world game and is only on the iceberg for laughs because there's a cat in the game with 2 buttholes. I hate when cats put their asses in your face, but imagine you got 2 little sarlacc pits winking at you every time. Ugh. Tool Parabola. The music video.
He finally put a Tool video on, and he can't even pronounce it right. It's parabola, like the math formula.
To Tool's Parabola is incredibly weird, with a scene where very creepy malformed businessmen eat fruit and then proceed to puke black liquid in a circle, and also a dude with weird tentacle things coming out of his eyes. Warhammer. Warhammer is a dark fantasy
I was just talking about Warhammer. This man has read my mind.
role-playing game and is mostly on the list due to chaos mutations, a long list of growing mutations that have been spreading through the world of Warhammer. A few examples are beak. Your face twists and contorts, and flesh around your mouth linkens and hardens, forming a beak. Bird's leg. Patches of flesh on one of your legs sprout wings and flutter
See, look, that's one of the Plague Marines from fucking, Nurgle.
away like bloody butterflies on the wind. What's left becomes hardened and scaly, with clumped flesh akin to a bird's leg. Headless. Your body sucks its head into itself. After a few disorienting moments, your face pushes out of your chest. So, these are just a few examples, but they're all really fun and gross to read. Warlock, 1989. Warlock is a film about a warlock from the 1600s who's sent to the future by Satan to modern-day California along with a witch hunter who follows him. It's essentially a horror movie with the warlock killing or cursing several people, including killing an unbaptized child to gain the power of flight. Though it's probably on the list because of an aging curse he puts on a woman who starts rapidly aging.
I don't know, him combusting like that through the neck was pretty body horror.
Wonder Chosen. Wonder Chosen is a bizarre sketch show from the early 2000s
Why do these bitches look like the precursor to Yo Gabba Gabba?
that a lot of people say was ahead of its time, as it feels like something that would be very popular on modern day Adult Swim. It's essentially a fake children's show that's a kind of parody of PBS with a mix of live action and animation. The show's hilarious, but it does have some nightmare fuel segments, like randomly putting a video of a fox
Okay, that video, if I remember correctly, was from Antichrist. Don't quote me on that.
decomposing, and Mr. Body stealing a kid's lungs and eating them while he's
Why did you show No. We're good.
the solution to this? Flay away. Yeah, just straight up removing your skin. It's really gross, but it also leans more towards a cartoony look. Some people think it's disgusting for the sake of being disgusting and not remotely short film, which has some similar qualities to it. Mbunche, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's a Chilean folklore creature described as a deformed human with its head twisted backwards, along with having twisted arms, fingers, nose, mouth, and ears. The creature walks on 1 foot, or on 3 feet, actually 1 leg and 2 hands because one of its legs is attached to the back of its neck. It cannot talk and communicates only by guttural, rough,
That is a terrifying rendition of it.
and unpleasant sounds. Mission 3 boss, Blazing Chrome. Blazing Chrome is a run-and-gun 2D shooter and an homage to the retro genre.
I would play this. I would definitely play this.
This entry obviously is specifically talking about the 3rd stage boss, where you essentially fight an alien creature from inside of it, shooting out its eyes and appendages. Mr. Dweller. Mr. Dweller is a truly insane channel most people would classify as cringe. Most of his popular videos are just strange versions of the Mr. Incredible becoming uncanny meme, and I'm assuming it's on the list because a lot of those videos have really gross images of just fucked
Yeah, don't check out this channel.
up bodily injuries or diseases. Also, he has a video of him saying Mr. Beast for 10 hours straight, so there's that. Oh my gosh, it works, guys. This is artwork by Yakpoo on Twitter based on a drawing tip of just drawing an Among Us character with big shoes to get perfect anime eyes. Yakpoo takes
Jesus!
this to a hilarious extreme, having the characters burst out of the head. Poultry Guys, Night of the Chicken Dead. Poultry Guys.
My boyfriend would watch this. He would watch this. I definitely gotta tell him about this. I don't know if he's seen it.
This is another trauma film. Now, I could do a whole video on trauma just because of how insane their films are, but let's just focus on this one for now. The whole premise of this film is that a new restaurant has opened up on an ancient tribal burial ground, and now the chicken is coming back from the dead and turning people into chicken zombies. It's truly insane and pretty hilarious with a ton of messed up gore, like a man's nipples turning into eggs that chickens then hatch out of, or a broom being shoved up a man's ass and then protruding through his penis on the other side. There's a ton of crazy shit going down here. Street trash. In Street Trash, a liquor store owner starts selling a strange booze concoction that he finds in the basement to homeless people. Turns out the stuff is horribly toxic and causes people to straight up melt and explode in graphic, horrifying detail.
Why are they turning blue? Why is their blood blue?
There's also a famous scene from this movie where a homeless man gets his genitals cut off and other homeless people start playing keep away with it. No, seriously, that happens. The Nuckalavi. Another classic folklore creature here, the Nuckalavi of Scotland is described as a man's torso attached to a horse's back as if it were a rider. The male torso has no leg.
Oh, okay. I've seen something. I think Zdzisław Beksiński made an art piece similar to this. It wasn't based on the Nuckalavi, but you can clearly tell that it does look like one.
Legs, but its arms can reach the ground from the position on top of the horse's body, the legs of which have fin-like appendages. The torso has a large head, possibly as much as 3 feet in diameter, that rolls back and forth. It actually has 2 heads. The horse head has an enormous gaping mouth that exudes a pungent, toxic vapor, and a single giant eye like a burning red flame. And the cherry on top of the body horror cake here is that the Nuckalavi has no skin. It's
fucking creepy.
It's pretty cool to see all these old folklore creatures on the iceberg because these are awesome. The Sand is a movie about sand that eats people. It fits right in with the sort of
Yeah, my boyfriend don't like this.
ridiculous horror concept movies that were springing up so much in the 2010s. And although the concept is theoretically horrifying, it's hard to take it seriously. Volley, 3-minute clip.mp4. This is one of those videos that's really hard to explain and you should just watch it. But it's a stop motion animation of what appears to be a cave person and their dog and shit going down here. Street trash. In with a sort of ridiculous horror. The videos all share an unpleasant but well done art style that's all Photoshop manipulations of actual images, although very distorted and usually gory with a lot of.
You know what sucks is I'm gonna have to edit the fuck out of this, and I don't edit my videos, but I'm gonna have to do it here.
Nudity as well. The most popular video on the channel is titled Poison Porridge and has swastikas in the title and throughout the video. In the video, a very disturbed man kills a pregnant woman.
Okay. We are going to get out of this because, I mean, the entries are getting, like, much harder to actually watch safely on Twitch. So, yeah. But that's essentially the rest of the iceberg. I'm going to go ahead and react to something else right quick. So, I'm going to change it up. Give me 1 second. Thank you guys all for watching the iceberg, by the way. Be sure to check the Discord in the description. And we're going to hop into something else.